I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Mike, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for about 22 years now. We met fresh out of high school. She was the girl everyone liked, beautiful, confident, the kind of girl you'd never suspect would do something so stupid. We got married right after college, had 2 kids, and for the most part, I thought we had a solid life. You know, the usual suburban stuff: work, bills, family dinners, occasional vacations. Nothing extraordinary, but I was happy, or so I thought. Things started to feel different about 6 months ago. Lisa, who's always been somewhat vain and bitchy, started acting weird. She'd be secretive about her phone, hiding texts, deleting things, like she was trying to erase her tracks. I'd catch her sneaking around, maybe a message from someone she didn't want me to see. She'd give me that, "What are you talking about?" look, then spin some bullshit excuse about being busy or just talking to her sister. Honestly, I brushed it off at first. I told myself she was just stressed or maybe bored, but the signs kept piling up. Then the big event happened. 2 weeks ago, it was our 20-year high school reunion. I didn't really want to go, I mean, what's the point? But Lisa insisted, said she wanted to reconnect with old friends. I went along, maybe naively thinking it would be harmless. We're all adults, right? People change. I figured she'd be checking out old classmates, flirting a little maybe, but nothing serious. That's what I told myself. But then, things started to fall apart that night. I was standing near the bar, talking to some guys from work when I saw her. There she was, laughing way too intimately with this guy, James. James was our high school rival, always the guy who made my life miserable back then. And now they're practically glued together, acting like they're in some romantic comedy. They weren't just talking either, their body language was obvious. She was leaning into him, touching his arm, and I swear, she looked like she was about to kiss him. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I watched in stunned silence while they flirted. I saw her lean in, whisper something, then they both burst out laughing. I couldn't believe it. Lisa, my wife, who's always been a little bitchy and manipulative, was cheating with her high school rival. How the hell does that even happen? I felt my stomach churn. I didn't want to confront her there, didn't want to cause a scene, but I knew I had to find out what was going on. It was like a switch had flipped in my brain. I couldn't take it anymore. After the reunion, I waited until she was asleep, then I went through her phone. I found texts, pictures, even some NSFW stuff, sexually charged messages, photos of them together, all from the last few weeks. I couldn't believe she'd been lying right in my face, cheating on me with someone I despise and doing it so blatantly. My mind was racing. I felt betrayed, angry, hurt. I wanted to break something, scream, cry, anything to release this pain. I was furious she'd lied for so long, made me feel like I was crazy while she was out screwing around with James and probably a lot more people. I knew I had to confront her. But how? How do you face your wife after discovering she's been screwing around behind your back for months? I wasn't just angry, I was devastated. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted, was out there, lying, cheating, and completely messing with my life. I didn't sleep that night, just replaying everything over and over in my head. I couldn't believe she'd do this to me, after all these years, after all the memories. It felt like my world was crumbling, and I had no idea where to go from here. The next morning hit hard. I woke up with a pounding head and that sick feeling you get when your stomach drops out of nowhere. I knew I had to confront her, but I didn't want to do it without a plan. I needed to get her to admit it, or at least confirm everything I suspected. I was angry, hurt, and a little bit numb, like I'd been punched in the chest and couldn't quite breathe. Lisa was still sleeping when I got up, her face calm but her eyes too shiny, like she'd been crying or hiding something. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her, and then I decided I'd confront her like I was some kind of detective. I'd ask her outright. See what she said. I kept my voice steady, though inside I was anything but. I asked her if she'd been cheating on me. She opened her eyes slowly, looked at me with that bitchy smirk she always wore, and said, "What are you talking about? You're being paranoid." I didn't buy it. I knew the truth was right there in her phone, in the messages I'd seen. I pulled it out of my pocket and laid it on the bed between us. "Don't lie, Lisa. I found your messages. I saw what you're doing with James. How long has this been going on?" Her eyes widened, then she rolled her eyes and scoffed. "Oh, please, you're overreacting. Those messages are nothing, just some stupid flirtation, nothing serious." She sat up, crossing her arms. "You're crazy if you think I'd cheat on you. Maybe you're the one who's been distant. Maybe you're the one who's been neglecting me." She's good at twisting things, I'll give her that. It's like she lives in her own world where she's the victim and I'm the bad guy. I lost it then. I told her I wasn't stupid and that I knew she'd been screwing around for weeks, that I saw her with James at the reunion, that she'd been lying and hiding everything. I asked her straight out if she ever loved me or if I was just some fool she settled for. Her smirk just got wider and she started to lie, throwing out meaningless excuses. "It's just sex," she said. "It's not like I love him, it's just a stupid fling. You don't understand how women like me are. Sometimes we just need something different. You're so boring." That was the moment I realized she was completely detached from reality. She didn't even seem sorry, just annoyed that I caught her. She kept insisting that I was imagining things, that she'd never cheat on me, that I was paranoid and jealous. But I knew better. I saw the texts, the photos. I felt the betrayal deep in my gut. I was furious, but I also felt a strange numbness creeping in. Like, what's the point of fighting for something that's already broken? I sat there, staring at her, trying to process everything. The woman I was married to for over 2 decades, who I'd trusted with. Everything was out there screwing around with some guy who used to be my high school rival, and she was doing it while lying straight to my face. The worst part, she didn't even seem to care, she just brushed it off like it was nothing. That kind of indifference cuts deep. It made me question everything about our marriage, about who she really was. I didn't yell that morning. I didn't scream or throw things. Honestly, I felt like I had been drained of all my strength. I just looked at her, and inside I knew that from this moment my life was never going to be the same. I had a choice: confront her further or just walk away. But I knew I'd never be able to look at her the same way again. I was hurt beyond words, and I didn't know how to fix this. I just sat there, staring at her, waiting for her to say something that might change everything. But she didn't. She just looked back at me with that bitchy smirk, as if all of this was some game she was winning. The silence between us felt heavy, like a thick fog that I couldn't see through. I didn't even know what to say anymore. Part of me wanted to scream at her for being so damn selfish, so manipulative, for betraying everything we built. But another part just wanted to crawl into a corner and disappear. I looked at her, and for a moment I thought about just walking out, leaving her standing there, not giving her the satisfaction of a fight. But I knew I needed to face the reality, no matter how much it hurt. She finally broke the silence, her voice dripping with that condescending tone she always used when she thought she was right. "Look, Mike, I don't know what your problem is. I didn't do anything wrong. That guy James, he's just an old friend, and honestly I don't even want to be married to you anymore. You're so boring, so controlling. Maybe I'm finally free of this life you forced on me. If you're so insecure, maybe you're the one who needs to look at himself." I felt my blood boil. That's classic Lisa, blame shifting, twisting everything around to make herself the victim. She's always been good at that. I wanted to rip her apart, scream at her, tell her how much I hated her, but I just clenched my fists instead. I knew I had to stay calm, at least for now. Inside, a raging storm was brewing. I asked her to leave, telling her I needed space to think. She scoffed again, rolled her eyes, and got up, grabbing her purse. "Fine, I'll go. But don't come crawling back when you realize I was right about everything." She stormed out, slamming the door behind her, leaving me alone with my thoughts and 1,000 questions. I sat on the couch, staring at the door, feeling a mixture of rage, sadness, and what I can only describe as a profound sense of betrayal. How did I get here? I spent the last few hours trying to make sense of it all. Why did she do it? Was I ever enough? Was I just a placeholder while she chased something more exciting? All these questions swirled in my mind, but there were no answers, only the cold, harsh truth. Lisa had been unfaithful, and she didn't even seem to care about the damage she caused. My mind kept going back to the moment I saw her with James at the reunion. That image played like a horror movie in my head, her laughing, touching him, acting like she didn't have a care in the world. She'd always been bitchy and manipulative, but I never thought she'd be capable of this level of betrayal. The fact that she lied to my face, denied everything, then turned around and dismissed me as paranoid. it made everything worse. It's like she's been living in her own little world where she's the victim, and I'm just some idiot who didn't see it coming. As I sat there, I realized I was at a crossroads. I could try to salvage what was left, or I could cut my losses, walk away, and start over. Honestly, I was leaning toward the latter. I never imagined I'd be one of those guys who got cheated on after all these years, but here I was. The man who thought he was solid, who built a life with the woman he loved, now questioning everything. And the worst part, I still loved her, or at least I did. Or maybe I still wanted to believe there was some way to fix this mess. I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't stay in this limbo, waiting for her to come back and pretend everything was fine. I had to make a decision. I had to figure out what I wanted, whether to fight for her, to see if she'd be remorseful and try to make it right, or to accept that this was the end of our story. Whatever I chose, I knew it wouldn't be easy. Nothing about this was easy. And deep down, I was terrified of what was to come next. The hours after Lisa left felt like an eternity. I sat alone in the quiet house, pacing back and forth, trying to process everything. My mind kept circling around the same thoughts: her lies, her betrayal, the fact that she'd been screwing around with James and probably others too. It was like my brain couldn't stop replaying the moment I found her with that smug look on her face, telling me I was paranoid. I kept asking myself, how did I miss all this? How did I not see it coming? I was furious at her, sure, but I also felt this crushing sadness. The woman I'd married, the one I'd trusted, with everything, had turned out to be someone I didn't even recognize. That realization hit me hard, harder than I expected. I kept wondering if I had missed signs, if I'd been blind all these years. Maybe I was too focused on work, too caught up in the daily grind to notice her growing distant or her little lies. Or maybe she was just a bitch all along and I was too blind to see it. I decided I needed to get some perspective, so I called my best friend Dave. I've known him for years and I knew he'd help me see things clearer. I told him what happened and his reaction was pretty much what I expected: anger, outrage, and the usual fuck her kind of advice. But then he said something that stuck with me. "Mike, you gotta ask yourself what you want. Do you want to fix this? Or do you want to get out before it destroys you?" That question haunted me. I knew Lisa's cheating was a huge blow, but a part of me still clung to the hope that maybe I could salvage something. Still, I couldn't ignore the fact that she did seem sorry at all. She just dismissed me, kept lying, and acted like I was the one overreacting. It made me feel like I was fighting a losing battle. I decided I'd confront her again, but this time I wanted to be prepared. I researched some ways to catch a cheating spouse, and I found evidence of other women she'd been messaging, some photos, more NSFW stuff, probably from the last few months. I also discovered she'd been secretly going out at night, maybe to meet James or someone else. All this just confirmed what I already knew: she'd been lying and sneaking around behind my back for a long time. That night I made a plan. I wanted to catch her in the act if I could. I set up a small hidden camera in the living room, hoping to record her coming home or doing something suspicious. I also kept her phone with me, ready to check for new messages. I knew if I was going to do this, I had to do it carefully. I couldn't afford to blow up in anger or make a scene, at least not yet. As I sat there, waiting in the dark, I felt this strange mix of anxiety and resolve. I wanted to know the truth, no matter how brutal it was. I wanted her to admit it herself, or at least get caught, because I couldn't keep living in this limbo, questioning everything, wondering if the woman I loved was just a lie. I kept telling myself I was doing this for closure, for clarity, but deep down, I knew I was also doing it out of revenge. I wanted to hurt her the way she hurt me. That night I stayed vigilant, watching the screen and waiting for something, anything, that would give me the answers I desperately needed. I kept replaying everything in my head: the laughter, the touches, her dismissive attitude. It all added up to one brutal truth: I'd been betrayed in ways I never thought possible. And once I saw her walk through that door, I knew my life was about to change forever. That night I barely slept. The camera was on and I kept glancing at my phone, waiting for some sign, some motion that would confirm everything I suspected. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but deep down I knew what I'd see. I was just hoping that maybe I was wrong, that she'd come home and everything would be a misunderstanding. But as the hours dragged on, my doubts only grew. Around 2 a.m., I saw her unlock her phone and send a message. It was brief, just a few words, something about meeting someone, ending the night early. My stomach clenched tight. I knew it was her. I knew it was James or whoever she'd been sneaking around with. I felt a wave of anger and sadness crash over me all at once. Just as I was about to get up and confront her, I heard the front door open quietly. My heart hammered in my chest. I saw her walk in, slinging her purse over her shoulder, looking around like she owns the place. She was wearing that same bitchy smirk, like she was proud of herself. She headed straight for the kitchen, humming some tune I didn't recognize. I stayed in the shadows, heart pounding, trying to calm down. But I knew I couldn't wait any longer. I had to face her. I came out of hiding, my voice cold and steady. "Lisa, we need to talk." She turned surprised, then her expression shifted quickly to annoyance. "What now? I told you I was out, just leave me alone." I kept my composure. "No, not this time. I saw your message. I saw you coming home at this hour. Who is he, Lisa? Tell me the truth." Her eyes flickered with a brief flash of panic, but then she regained her bitchy smirk. "You're crazy, Mike. I don't know what you saw. Maybe it's just a friend. Or maybe you're just jealous because I'm finally doing something for myself. You've been so controlling, so insecure. I can't take it anymore." She was really good at lying, I'll give her that, but I wasn't buying it this time. I told her I knew she'd been screwing around, that I'd seen the photos, the texts, everything. That her cheating wasn't just a fling, it had been going on for months. I saw how her face flickered with shock, then quickly turned into that sneering look she always used when trying to manipulate me. "Look, Mike," she said, "you're just overreacting. I love you, I do, but I can't keep pretending I'm happy. Maybe you're the one who needs to get a grip." That was the moment I realized she was really trying to gaslight me. She was turning everything around, making herself the victim, trying to convince me I was the one at fault. I felt my fists clench. I wanted to punch her, to shake her, to scream at her for being so damn selfish. But I held back. Instead, I told her she needed to leave, that I didn't want to see her face anymore, not until she could be honest. She looked at me with that bitchy smirk, then finally snapped. "Fine, I'll go, but you're making a huge mistake, Mike. You're just too blind to see how much I've been suffering, how much I've needed this. Maybe it's better this way." She stormed out again, slamming the door behind her like she was trying to punish me, and I stood there feeling crushed but somehow relieved that I finally knew the truth. The aftermath was a whirlwind. I spent the next few days trying to process everything. My mind kept replaying her words, her lies, the way she looked when she thought she'd gotten away with it. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I knew I couldn't stay with her anymore. The woman I married had turned into someone I didn't recognize, and as much as it hurt, I knew I had to do what was best for me. I started planning my next move. I reached out to a lawyer, began thinking about separating, about protecting myself and my kids. I also realized I needed to focus on myself, my feelings, my future. The pain was real, but I knew I'd survive this. I had to, somehow. But I also knew that from this moment my life would never be the same. I'd been betrayed in ways I never thought possible, by the woman I loved, by someone I once trusted with everything. And I was just trying to figure out how to pick up the pieces. In the days that followed, everything felt like a blur. I moved through the motions, packing up her things, making arrangements for the kids, trying to stay calm even as my mind kept spinning with 1,000 thoughts. Each time I looked at her side of the bed, I saw the empty space where she used to sleep, and it hit me harder than I thought possible. I'd invested so much time, effort, and love into this marriage, and now it was gone, shattered by her lies and betrayal. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel like a fool. All those years, I believed in us, in her, in the life we built. But she turned out to be someone else entirely. A bitchy, manipulative woman who'd rather chase after her high school rival than stay faithful. It's one thing to get cheated on, but it's another to realize that the person you loved was just pretending all along. It's a punch to the gut that I'm still feeling. I've come to accept that I can't change what happened. I can't undo her lies or her cheating. All I can do now is decide what I want next. The pain still lingers, but there's also a strange sense of relief. I'm finally free from the constant suspicion, the lies, and the betrayal. I realize I spent so much time blaming myself that I forgot my own worth. Now I see that I deserve better, deserve someone who respects me, who loves me for who I am, not someone out there chasing some stupid high school fantasy. Looking back, I've learned a few tough lessons. Never ignore the warning signs, no matter how small, they add up. Trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's nearly impossible to repair. And most importantly, don't stay in a relationship where you're being disrespected and lied to. I wasted a lot of time convincing myself I was overreacting, that maybe she'd change. But the truth is, some betrayals cut so deep that they leave scars you can't ignore. As I move forward, I'm focusing on myself. I've started seeing a counselor, talking through my feelings and working on rebuilding my confidence. I want a future where I'm not haunted by her lies or her betrayal. I want to be happy again on my own terms. The pain will fade, but the lessons I've learned will stay with me. To anyone out there dealing with something similar, trust your gut. Don't ignore the small signs or pretend everything's fine because you're afraid of what's next. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from something that's hurting you, even if it feels like the end of the world at first. Because in the end, you deserve more than lies, betrayal, and a wife who thinks she's above it all. This whole experience has taught me that betrayal can come from the people you trust most, but it also shows you who you really are. I'm stronger than I thought, and I refuse to let her define my future. I'll find my happiness again, alone if I have to, because at the end of the day, I know I'm worth it.